talk about Women's Lab and about archearchal women. And I invited two possibility management trainers and two wonderful women, Patrizia Patz and Dagmar Thürnagel, who will be holding space for first ever Women Lab in Poland this October. It will be 19th to 23rd of October this year. And we met today to have a conversation. What is Women Lab and what actually means to be woman? What would be the Women Lab, or why would we come for Women Lab?
Why coming for a Women Lab? There are topics that we can only experience in the circle of women, because in our culture, at least in the German culture, I don't know how it is in the Polish culture. I'm half Italian and half German. I only know the Italian culture and the German culture, but in our culture in Germany, there is no women culture anymore. I think in the past, long time ago, there was women's culture as a natural part of the common culture, but it doesn't exist anymore. So we don't have any experience of the power of femininity or the power of archetypal womanhood. And I think we can only experience and research about it in a space where we are together with other women. And where do we have that? Except in Women's Lab.
Yeah, so I totally agree. And I would like to add that we know from trainings and from the context of possibility management that the experience and the truth that the space gives what it's possible. So if women are holding space for women, something different is possible than in a mixed space. It's just different. So different things can show up. There is a different kind of, let's call it safety, to show up with certain topics, to show yourself vulnerable, to do healing processes, to throw yourself into experiments than in a mixed group. And for me, Women's Lab is a lot of exploration and research without knowing what it is. So I remember, I think it was on my first Women's Lab many years ago. We had an exploration space and we did discovery speaking about what is next culture, what is women's next culture. If we admit that we don't know and we go into the not knowing together, what comes up? What can we extract from the field together? So it's most likely not going to be like that we come, Patrizia and I, we come to Poland and then we show you something that we know. We rather get together and find out in the very moment what arises, what emerges in this special time.
Yes, I would like to add something, because Dagmar said the Women's Lab gives a certain kind of safety also to go into certain topics. And at the same time, it could also be a very dangerous place, because we still live in a very patriarchal culture. And to survive as a woman in a patriarchal culture, we formed survival patterns like being in competition with other women. And so for a lot of women, coming to a Women's Lab at first feels very dangerous. And it's cool to get conscious about that and to get rid of it, or to overcome that survival pattern, because the community of women has such a quality that we cannot experience when we are in this old cultural survival pattern in a patriarchal culture. So it could feel, in the beginning, it could feel very dangerous to come to a women's circle, only women. But when we look at how it came to existence, this old pattern, and we tear it apart, then the special quality of women culture or women community can arise, and we can make a completely different experience. This is at least what I experienced in my last women's circles or women's labs.
Which includes coming to a feminine pace, like finding the speed of how we relate, of how we love each other, of how we even have friction with each other outside the culture of linearity or performance or needing to be someone in order to be successful or survive. So like, you know, it's like bringing the plants out of the pots into a garden that we create together, and then see what the plants do when we tend to the plants for a couple of days together.
This is also scary for me, also for many women, because I mean, we also keep the system alive, I guess. Yeah, we have some benefits from keeping it this way.
Yeah. Yeah, we learned how to do it, and it works.
Yeah.
More or less. And but we don't know what we are missing.
This is the thing, we don't know what we are missing.
How would you describe the women's culture in Poland? Is it similar to Germany?
I would say, from what I observed, there is this competition and a lot of judgment about, she's a mother, she should be like this, and that. If she is not a mother, then what kind of woman she is. So a lot of, if we are like that, we should be like that. And I also observed that on the surface of women that are, let's say, in process of self-development and working on themselves, one thing is declaration, another thing is embodiment. In the world that, as you said, Dagmar, is very linear, and it's very much about performance.
Yeah. So one aspect could be to really get conscious about the concepts, about the stories, about the expectations and assumptions that we are carrying, most likely unconsciously. Like what decisions did we potentially make or take from other women, other generations of women that are still working on us and are part of our filters, and how to go beyond that. But if you want to go and grow beyond that and actually really grow up, whatever that means for this time, we need really to get conscious, because if we're not conscious, we can't take responsibility. And so if one of us would do this, it's like a hard job to do and maybe not very motivating, or you would do it in your secret chamber and read intelligent books about it. But if we do it together, the whole thing is going to get dynamics. It's a co-creation, and it can be a lot of fun. Yes, and it can be painful. It can be challenging. Most likely there will be fear involved and rage involved and a lot of sadness. And I trust there will be a lot of joy in all that.
Yeah, and it's a special space for healing. And it's not only for personal healing, because I think in regard to women and men, we have different kinds of imprints. Like Dagmar said, cultural imprint from the past, from past generations, but also a cultural imprint from our culture now, our very performance-oriented culture, and also from our family. So what was the picture of a woman in our family, and also our personal imprint or our personal experience as children with our mother, for example, or our fathers. There are a lot of wounds, old wounds, which can produce patterns like hatred towards men or hatred towards women, and these patterns can be based on a personal imprint or a cultural imprint. And in a women's lab, where only women are, we can more easily go into not only do the personal processes, but also archetypal or cultural processes. So the processes that we do there are not only beneficial for each one of us, but also for the field, for womenhood in culture. So therefore, it is also good if people come who already have attended to at least one mixed lab or normal lab, so they have done a little bit of their personal work already, so that we can more easily go also to community wounds or cultural wounds and do healing work also there, not only personal.
Wow, thank you for saying that, Patrizia, because it really resonates with me. As also I work with women in general. Most of the women think that I am alone in my experience and something broken within me that needs fixing.
Yeah.
And also this is on the basis of patriarchy and also capitalistic system earns money on women not feeling worthy or good enough, the cosmetic, fashion and stuff like that. So now taking it to the wider picture that I'm part of the system and it's not just my personal experience, but it's collective experience. And we can actually open up and see that maybe this is something bigger working through me. So it makes sense to open up to heal also collective through personal.
Yeah.
And it goes either way. It's like, I do my personal work, I'm feeding the field, so the field is nourishing me back. And this is how healing on all levels happens. So what came to me is talking about, like, I don't know whether it's roles, it could even be a definition of an incorporated, embodied archetype, like being a mother or not being a mother, or being an aunt, you know, the childless aunt as a kind of an archetype. And I trust we will find other images or roles or archetypes that women that are part of a life as a woman, or where we identify or move into, at least at stages of our life. And how do they relate, and what is there? What have we inherited, and where can we go with it?
Wow, it just really opened the space of self-defining, self-discovery.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Apart from role pictures or boxes. This is a mother, this is an aunt, this is a wife, this is a
yeah.
And it's not only about women and men, but also about the archetypal feminine power or quality, which is in every being. So also every man has a feminine and a masculine part, and we also have a feminine and a masculine part. And in our culture, we are trained to have focus and emphasis on the masculine part. So it's really about finding out what is the feminine quality, and how can it be on eye level and co-create together with the masculine quality. So it's also about that. It's not only about being a woman, but about this quality and bringing home after the lab this treasure of a quality that is there within us, but we are not trained to use it.
I've connected to my sadness that tells me that I miss it.
Yeah, we all miss it. Look into the world. Look how the planet is, the state of the planet, the state of the people. A lot of people are in burnout because of this doing, functioning, performance. It is not a sustainable way of living and creating. So we need this other quality, this being quality, this which has a different speed and different ways of creating. And those two qualities together would make it complete, so that I have a choice.
So for me, a women's lab is also having a shared space to experience together that we are everything, that we are all, and share what that means to us in the brightest version and in the darkest version.
So there will be also some shadow work.
Oh, yes. Could even happen that we start with the shadow work right in the beginning. So we have clarity about what we do and what our strategies are when we meet other women. and really detecting what our gremlins do. Gremlins are so fast and so clever in checking others out. And I think a lot about the shadow of women is about comparison, like comparing myself to other women in order to get clarity about the ranking, which is most likely in relationship to a man. Is she a danger or is she not? Can I relax or do I have to fight or do I have to play some tricks? And a lot of that is really, really unconscious. And if we look at it, we can admit that this is happening. We can really relax in each other's company.
Because this is what makes it dangerous to be with other women. The archetypal feminine has a bright side and a shadow side. And if we're not clear about it, then we don't have a choice. And as I said in the beginning, in this patriarchal culture, we needed to unconsciously fight to survive. So the shadow side of the archetypal feminine was at work. So the meanness so I personally was always more afraid of women than of men.
Yes.
I found out that I was able to manipulate men so that they protect me from women, from the meanness of women. This was what I found out when I first started to attend women's labs. What my survival strategies were how I used men to protect me from women and so on. So the shadow side is, as Dagmar said, a very important part of the women's lab. To get conscious about that, about this power that is in the shadow side of the archetypal feminine.
So in a way, we're coming together to do the impossible.
Because it does seem like impossible.
Yeah.
And so fucking hard.
And we're not doing it in a linear way. We're doing it in a
effective way. Yeah. I was just inside of myself, I was referring to the impossible in terms of defining what a woman is. I mean, define what a woman is. This is impossible. And yes, we will come together and see where we go, where we find out.
Yeah, and I think when you ask what is an adult woman, there's what comes to me is adulthood. I think it's more about consciousness, becoming conscious. And for me, an adult person is a person who makes decision, who creates their world by making decision and being ready to pay the full price for the decision. So it's not different for a man or a woman or a transgender person. So for me, it is more researching about why I chose to be a woman. I'm born in this body and I chose consciously. Today you can choose which gender you are attracted to or you want to be. So I chose to be a woman, and for me it's more about researching why and what does it mean and what is the part women play in a community or in a culture, or what are the qualities that I bring because I am a woman. It goes more in this direction.
Okay.
Because I also don't want to exclude people who are transgender or who are in a body. The body is a male body, but they define themselves as a woman and so on. So I think all this needs to be somehow included. And adulthood is something more general for me.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I would like to add that for me, part of being adult is owning my story world. Like knowing about stories and owning the stories and being responsible for the stories that I create. Stories that I create about myself as a woman, about women in general, about womanhood, about how we show up in the culture and how we are part of shifting the culture to something that is more in accordance with our longing and our passion and our bright principles and our emotional archetypes and our archetypal lineages. Like really, really see where our stories are limiting us. Am I still in the story world that I inherited from my ancestors? Or can I go somewhere else and create a story together? Write a new story.
Write a new story.
An empowering story, an inspiring story.
And by that, changing the culture or creating new game worlds where different things are possible.
It can be very playful and integrative. Like even though we set out to tell a new story, it doesn't mean that we have to disconnect from what women throughout the ages have been doing or have been expressing. I feel like they're all standing in my back and clapping now. It's like, and it's not, you're either a witch or you're a princess, because they all there. It's like, and there's no fighting. It's like, I can have access to all those different aspects, and I am them all.
I'm a bitch, I'm a lover, I'm a child, I'm a mother, I'm a sinner, I'm a saint.
Yeah.
I do not feel ashamed.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a wonderful moment to let it work in all of us.
Yes.
I so much look forward this discovery. Yes. I cannot wait.
You're in October.
Yes, 19th to 23rd of October 2022. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.